Wonderful that you've joined me tonight. Really nice to see you all. My name is Jordan Stewart, and it's great to be with you for this U14 to U19 town hall. Obviously, I am solo tonight, so if I'm flipping back and forth through screens, please bear with me. If things are a little clunky, please bear with me as well. We've disabled everyone's cameras and microphones tonight just for the sake of bandwidth and to keep things going and moving. If you've got questions, please put them in the chat at any moment. I'll be coming up for air from this presentation here and there, and I'll make sure that I address every single question that's asked tonight. And if I don't have the answers, I will 100% find the answers for you. So in the spirit of reconciliation, we acknowledge that we live, work, and play on the traditional territories of the Blackfoot Confederacy, the Siksika, the Kainai, the Piikani, the Tsuut'ina, the Stoney Nakoda Nations, the Métis Nation Region 3, and all people who make their homes in the Treaty 7 region of Southern Alberta. So as I've mentioned, my name is Jordan Stewart. I'm the CMSA Technical Manager, and previous to this role here at CMSA, I've coached players anywhere from U4, which is my little guy at home here, all the way through to university. Previously, I was the former ASA regional coach for Southern Alberta and the Alberta Recs director, where I got a pretty broad experience and portfolio of work from player development within the rec stream and also the provincial teams, along with some talent ID and talent development pieces. And then into district outreach, where I would support districts and try and align them to best practice and really try and understand what their needs were and try and find solutions with them. And then lastly, through into the coach education stream, all the way up to a C license level, helping our coaches become better, because we know if we have better coaches, we will have better players. I've got experience working in grassroots clubs up in Edmonton when I was there, along with the FC Edmonton Professional Academy, where I was leading the U18 group. Unfortunately, that club's no longer with us, but it was a fantastic club and a great time to be working for them as well. Experience, as I've mentioned, with Alberta Soccer as a provincial sporting organization, the youth national team development system, and some youth national team camps. Colleges and universities at NAIT and MacEwan University, and then through community outreach programs like Free Footy, that's now called Free Play, that was giving kids an opportunity to play the game free of charge. And then lastly, into my current role within a district governing body here within Calgary. I'd be remiss if we didn't at least acknowledge the last year that we've had, which has been a wild one for sure. We've seen unprecedented growth. We are 100% back, and we owe it to a lot of people like you and the rest of the people that support the beautiful game here in Calgary. So we've prepared a quick video for you to just remember some of those fantastic times over the last year. The game is undoubtedly back, and we are so grateful that you're a part of this community and a part of this home. I wanted to share a piece about the upcoming technical plan, but we're still just in the final kind of versions of the draft and haven't really finished up the public facing document yet. So it is coming soon, but it will be building off of that previous technical plan from 2021 to 23 and really trying to continue taking steps forward to build the game, to progress the game, and to be a leader nationwide here in Calgary with how we're trying to develop the game from a technical side. I want to make sure that we have a quick awareness about the Canada Soccer player pathway. And while there probably isn't a lot of you in the audience tonight that have got players within this, or sorry, children and players within this kind of stages 1 to 3, that's usually where people start, and that's usually where they start to flow up into standards-based leagues or into CMSA, both competitive and community levels. And really, this is the overview of where each piece of the puzzle kind of operates. So you'll see a standards-based league here, which is the APDL. They flow back and forth into professional club academies and into Rex programs, and then up through into youth national teams and further pro club academies, and then hopefully through to senior national teams and professional football. If that's not the route, no problem. Well, there could be some university pathways here from U Sports to the colleges to NCAA, or even in through some pro-am or really kind of university summer programs, which is what some of them are, within the USL2, UWS, or League One Alberta. Again, if that's not your path, that's totally fine. Can we get you involved into a men's league, into the women's league here in Calgary, and into the Alberta Major Soccer League? And if that's still not your path and you're like me right now and you just want to play for a social kick around, no problem. There's men's and women's leagues for that as well here in Calgary. And if you haven't seen this image, I would encourage you to look up what long-term player development is and really some of the standards and benchmarks around what that looks like. This is a document that was created about 2008, 2009, and it's starting to show a little bit of its age, but a lot of this framework is what we build the game upon and what we try to work towards on a daily basis, from both scheduling leagues to how we work with players to match formats, etc. This is what we really, really try and work with. And as you'll see, train to train, training to compete, as these stages click along, training to win, that last box in that top right, the absolute pinnacle of the game here in Canada, or into a stage 7 where we are active and competitive or active and social within different streams here in Calgary, both at the youth level and at the adult level. So we are trying to achieve what's still in here, and this is 15 and 16 years on. So you can imagine how long it actually takes to get this through a full cycle. This is a framework that's been adopted worldwide that a lot of countries have taken and then tailored a little bit. So this is a very common and very well put together framework that was developed here in Canada. We always develop our CMSA program handbook before seasons start, and we give this resource to our clubs so that they can then base their registration packages and information off of what's in this program handbook. This is available on our website, and I would encourage you to go and give it a quick read and compare what was in that compared to what was in your club's registration package and information, and maybe see where some of those disconnects were and ask some questions, because it's, I think, always good to ask questions. I also want to acknowledge the amount of progress that our clubs have made here in the last probably year, where every single club in Calgary is now an SQS holder. And that means that they have achieved a minimum standard of programming, of organizational structure as well, and of priorities to be a license holder and a license holder within the Canada soccer ecosystem. We still have got 7 National Youth Club license holders here in Calgary. They will put teams into the APDL League, and they have about 140 odd criteria that they need to be adhering to, whereas the SQS license is a less strenuous and less involved license, but still has some fantastic standards associated with it at, I think, 32 criteria there. So what it is it's a certain mark of quality and a certain mark that these clubs have actually achieved standards and made progress. What does SQS mean? Well, really, it's tried to enhance the soccer environments and trying to align things as well. And so part of that is through a modified and a full safe sport roster of coach training requirements. For the context of tonight, we'll be focusing on that full safe sport roster requirements for U12 plus. And that decision of where the line went from modified to full safe sport was made in conjunction and in collaboration with our clubs. So a lot of consultation there to determine where the right line was for the amount of coach training that was required. And so we produced this image here. And this table, while it looks simple, it took a long time, oddly enough, to produce. And we wanted it to be really, really clear for people in order to understand what standards we expect of our coaches. And we are actually a leading district within Alberta in terms of the depth and breadth of coach training that we're requiring for our coaches. No other district will meet these standards currently, and no other really sport within Calgary has standards as high as this, especially from a safe sport context. And previously in CMSA, you would have seen this in our rules and regulations. So as long as you have a criminal record check with vulnerable sector search and you complete the respected sport activity leader course, you're able to then coach in our leagues. Well, obviously through club licensing and that full safe sport roster requirement, things have evolved. And now it looks like this. So what that is that is all of the training that these coaches will be going through and will be completing, both in a technical sense, so in an actual soccer coaching sense, but then also in a safe sport sense. So things like making ethical decisions. So how to deal with and apply a 6-step decision-making model when you're dealing with ethical dilemmas and difficult decisions. Making headway, which is around concussion recognition, prevention, and then treatment, not the coach treating it, but in terms of finding treatment and then a return to play protocol as well. Rule of 2 is that all interactions with children and with youth are in a safe, justifiable, public, and transparent manner so that we don't have youth being left alone one-on-one with adults. And then EAP is around emergency action planning. So what happens if or when something awful happens on the field and we need to enact an EAP? So how are we functioning? What roles do we have? Who's calling the ambulance and directing them in? Who's dealing with the situation? Who's maybe got some CPR training as well? And so for our coaches, we developed this little roadmap and pathway where essentially they would start in the document and flow through it. And then it's a choose your own adventure from there. So for the context of tonight, it's Soccer for Life, where they again would flow through and then complete these safe sport training requirements as well. You'll see here, the Soccer for Life course is very well attended here on Friday. I think it's tomorrow night. With 39 coaches, and the June 28th course is starting to get enrolled as well. So we're wanting our coaches trade because our data shows that 26% of players will leave the game when they have an untrained or unqualified coach, compared to 5% of players that leave the game when they're with a qualified and trained coach. So this is really a player retention and a player development strategy to have better coaches and better standards around our coaches as well. Just going to pause there and check the chat. Quiet group tonight so far, which is okay. We will discuss how these schedules get made. So the schedule was probably released, I don't know, a week or week and a half ago now, and games obviously start up this weekend. So the process that we go through is we ask the clubs to submit their tier 1 declarations typically. This year we did not, and we just asked them for a full team entry. So all of the teams that they were going to enter within CMSA into that step 2. That happens on April 2nd. On April 3rd of this year, we brought all of the clubs in. We brought them into CMSA and we sit down and we put up all of the leagues on the screen in front of them and we say, right, here's where all of the teams have been entered. Are they in the right spot? Do they need to move up a level, down an entire age group to find meaningful competition? And are you going to have good games with the rest of the teams in that league? The clubs then hold each other accountable. They will challenge each other. They'll say, I don't think that team should be there, or what's changed with that team that they've moved up, and these kinds of things. And they've actually said, no, I don't think my team is at that level. I think we need to move down because of the other teams in that group. Then we go back and forth with them to verify that all the teams are in there and they're in the right spot. And we try and select some preset play dates. Obviously, the most amount of playing time and field time is on weekends, so Saturdays and Sundays, but there's also some midweek games as well that you can likely expect. We then get given field permits from the city of Calgary because they own all of the field permits other than Calgary West Soccer Center, which CMSA owns and manages. Uh, we try and match that together with the amount of teams, with preset play dates, with the field permits that we're giving, and we try to build it, and we try to build the schedule. There's two ladies in the office, Rachel Hugh and Kim Kerr, that do a fabulous job and literally work probably 18 hours a day for 2 or 3 weeks, getting the schedule done. So they're scheduling games for over 800 teams and about 5,000 odd games within this stretch. So it's no fault or small feat, and it's a massive undertaking from them. Then once they've got it built, they go back through it and they look to manipulate it by hand. So they look to make sure that, travel distances aren't too extreme. They look to make sure that there's an even balance home and away, and that it feels like a home and away piece. And they look to try and manage the kickoff times as well so that it's equitable and fair. Then, obviously, when the schedule comes out, and teams are away at tournaments. So then there's rescheduling to be done, and manipulation. Obviously, with smoke, with adverse weather, with rainouts, with locusts, we're going to be rescheduling games throughout the year. And then once the season concludes, they do it all over again for the indoor season in a kind of rinse, lather, repeat kind of cycle. Within your leagues, you are highly likely actually to see players that are chronologically older than their age group playing down an age group. And so it was called biobanding. We've been forced to rename it to age exemptions from ASA and some insurance interpretations around this. So players that are age exempt, essentially, it's the process of grouping athletes on the basis of attributes associated with growth, their physical growth and maturation, rather than just their chronological age. So children of the same age can vary considerably in their biological maturation, with some of them maturing in advance or in delay of their peers. You'll see some Davids, some Goliaths in the same league. So it's about giving those Davids a chance to compete at their own size level, if that's appropriate, and it also helps with some talent ID and talent development strategies as well. Our process is that the clubs will inform the parents or guardians or caregivers of that child along the lines of how long this is for, what the reasons are, and then what can be taken away as well. So potential for provincial championship competition to not be involved in that because you're an older overage player, and also maybe some tournaments as well. They then communicate with the other opponents within their league to say, hey, we have 2 age exempt players on our roster, and make everyone aware of it, and so that there is a certain level of accountability. CMSA's expectations around this are that it's not being abused, that clubs are putting the proper developmental outcomes and focus on this initiative, and that we do audit and monitor this more closely than some other pieces as well, because we do not want clubs playing older players down to win games, enhance league position, etc., because it's not actually going to help them in the long run. It's just going to hurt the players. It's going to hurt the leagues, and it's not acting in a true competitive and true sporting spirit. And part of that sporting spirit is around some conduct expectations. And really, we all on this call and we all in this community are going to have to set the standard of what's acceptable and not acceptable. So it's not acceptable to be abusing referees. It's not acceptable to be constantly questioning their decisions. It's not acceptable to be putting down the other team. because we want a positive sporting culture and we want a positive sporting climate that's inclusive, that's safe, that's fun. And I leave the image on your screen there in terms of wrestling with a pig, because I think we can elevate ourselves from the level of just wrestling with pigs when some of this stuff starts happening. That when we wrestle with a pig, obviously you get covered in, well, you know what? And the pig actually loves it. The pig enjoys doing that. So can we elevate ourselves a little higher in terms of our conduct and our expectations of each other, and make sure that we're supporting our kids and being positive role models as well? Part of this piece is around the field marshal program. So every game and every team will have a field marshal for every single game. It's designated by an orange armband that they will wear, and it's about empowering one individual from each team to speak up on behalf of the referee amongst their fellow parents and spectators. So if you hear some negative behavior, if you hear the old "come on, ref" or any of that nonsense, it's the field marshal's job first to be going over there and saying something and really trying to encourage them not to, and really to say abuse towards referees is not going to be tolerated, which I'm going to be talking about right away here, because we want a supportive and positive environment with supportive, positive sporting behaviors, and we encourage parents to cheer, not to critique. Now, I know that feels like I'm just, reprimanding people, but I have to get it out there and I have to make sure that that's acknowledged. Speaking to some of our other initiatives that we've gotten going as well, the Empower Her initiative, which is our women and girls project. We've been supporting the She Can Coach initiative that'll be having their practical sessions here in Calgary this weekend, where over 70 young women and female coaches will be going through their practical sessions so that they can become better coaches and continue to be great role models in the community here. We, for the first time ever, put on 2 female-only entry-level courses for referees, which were incredibly well received, and we are building a strong and confident cohort of young female referees in this city. It really hit me when I found out that there isn't a single female referee that's able to referee in the upcoming Project 8 League in this city. So we will have a professional women's franchise, and we don't even have a female referee that's at that level that can referee those games, which is disappointing, and we're trying to work to rectify that in the long term. March 8th, on International Women's Day, we held a Free Soccer Friday event where we welcomed over 60 young girls to come have a kick around, try the game of soccer. And of those 60, I think it was about 63% that weren't even registered. So we're trying to grow the female player base as well through time. We're also trying to grow our referee pool so that our games can start to have more referees on each one. So not just 3-person crews at tier 1, but our goal is to have 3-person crews at all tiers come outdoor 2025. So to do that, we need to expand our referee pool. And we've brought in over 200 brand new referees this year to the system, where they are either coming through Project Ref, which is a collaboration between Kids Sport, Hockey Calgary, and CMSA, where if an athlete's receiving Kids Sport funding, they actually get all of their referee education paid for, along with their gear and any upgrading that they do later on as well. So we're finding part-time employment for these kids and also giving them some life skills and leadership skills as well. The Teal Shirt campaign will return as well, where first-year referees will be identified based on that teal shirt that you can see on your screen. And it has a big first-year referee across the back, because we know that that's like a stop sign, that when you see that, you might think twice about yelling at someone who's literally learning the game, and that could be their first ever time on the field with a whistle in their mouth. So they're going to make mistakes. It's not going to be perfect, and we need to be empathetic and supportive of these people. All of those new referees also get mentorship. They'll get a minimum of 4 sessions throughout their first season, where we'll pair them up with a senior referee that will help them, that will be at their games, and that will be supporting them. They'll also connect them in with a social network of referees in an effort to try to retain them within the game. Those mentors are receiving education, and we're building out that program right now. And then we also are hosting monthly education sessions for all of our referees. So we know that we don't want to just build out the quantity of our referees, but we also want to help them from a quality standpoint as well. And I said that I would speak to the referee piece because we've launched a zero tolerance policy for referee abuse. And it's reportable by any person. So any bystander or anyone that's at games through our CMSA website, there's a form located on there. And we will be following up with every single one of these. And we will be taking a very firm stance within these reports. We've also allowed referees to have additional powers and additional authorities that they can call timeouts or cool downs in matches if things are getting heated as a more warning piece, like I'm being abused, I'm being harassed, I'm being questioned too much, or I'm being discriminated against, that this needs to stop. And then if it can't stop, we're allowing them to abandon the matches at any point where they will not be replayed and there will be no points given to either team. So we can either be in this together or, we're not going to be playing the game for too long. The key takeaways from this policy for coaches is to coach, not to question. For parents is to cheer, not abuse. And for players is to play, not to dissent. Without refs, we have no game. So it's our choice if we want to keep them around. And it's also our choice if our teams will be brought back based on their behaviors throughout the seasons. Should you have a no-show with a referee at one of your games, both teams agree on who is going to referee the game. So the game is still played and the teams can maybe split the refereeing duties half and half. Sometimes there's a parent or sibling on the sidelines that is a trained referee or will referee, so please ask them as well. The odds of this happening are slim. Our last outdoor season, where there was over 5,100 games scheduled, 0.2% were not actually picked up by a referee. So we're talking about a very small number of games where referees just magically were not available at all. Outside of that, if someone wakes up, they're sick, their car breaks down, their dog is dying, whatever it is, and they can't make it, we work very hard to try and find a backup referee to go and referee that game. There are occasions where those situations happen. We're humans, it's not perfect, but I think if we're running at a 99.8% efficiency, we're doing okay. We're doing okay right now. For the coaches, if there are any coaches on the call, 50% off of Make Ethical Decisions courses are going on through April 2024. You can register for these through the Alberta Sport website by typing in Alberta Sport multi-sport courses, and then a calendar will pop up where you can register for them. We also offer our technical culture series here with CMSA, where we bring in international and national experts to help share best practice and to help make our coaches 1% better every single time. Another initiative that we have launched over the last year is called Free Soccer Friday, which is a drop-in soccer opportunity for anyone to come and play. Really, it's about developing social and life skills. So you're not going to see coaches on there. You're not going to see people running sessions. You are going to see players having to self-organize, having to communicate, having to introduce each other, and having to play with complete strangers in likely a mixed age environment. It's unstructured, so we don't reinforce a ton of rules. We don't put an adult lens on it either. And really, we're focusing on connecting community. And we're very grateful to Service Credit Union for allowing us to have access to these facilities in terms of some funding and also supporting this initiative that helps to build community. We know that elite player development, that stage 6 in that player pathway, you're talking national teams, pros, that has common threads throughout a lot of the research around the world. Some of those common threads are around mixed age play, unstructured environments in that mixed age play, and access to facilities to actually go and play at. So if we think about that, you might think, oh, this is a strategy to provide a pathway to play for kids who have never played the game. No, this is actually an initiative as well to help top players continue to develop as well. while building community, while helping them with their leadership skills and their socialization skills as well. And at the end of the day, it gets them off of one of these, which is always a bonus. The upcoming dates are on your screen. I think that Genesis Center date is going to be modified, but we'll let everyone know, and this is always on our website. Our lightning and adverse weather policy comes from Alberta Soccer, so it's a province-wide policy that the match officials, so the referees, have got the final say over delaying or restarting a match due to severe weather. And really, it's about thunder. It's not about lightning. So when thunder roars, we go indoors. As soon as thunder is heard, a stopwatch will start for 30 minutes that we have to wait to be thunder free before any game will be even thought about restarting. Every time that there's another thunder boom, that 30 minutes starts again. This is paramount for player safety, and we do not want anyone endangered by lightning ever. There's also an air quality policy. So if the air quality health index is a 7 or higher, games will be delayed or rescheduled. We will often send out an email in and around 4 o'clock on days that do seem a little suspect. But if it is hovering in around that 3 to 6 kind of range, you are meant to go to the games, and the referee on site will be making a decision if it's canceled or not. The AQHI can change around the city even, so you might have better air quality in the northwest than they do in the southeast. So the southeast games might get canceled and the northwest will continue. So please ensure that you're still going to your games and that that's taking place. In terms of you know what, I'm going to pause there. Question here in terms of how does CMSA explain putting 15-year-olds in a league with 19-year-olds if they are concerned about the safety and security and development of players? I feel like that question was awaiting, so I'll scroll back here, and what I'll do is go back into this piece. At the Club Connects, we will put all those teams up onto the screen. Generally, what happens when things like this happen is we will have a very low number of teams, say in a, I don't know, boys U16 tier 3. Maybe there's only 3 teams in that league. The feedback that we get from clubs and parents is this: well, why don't we have more variety of competition? Well, the likelihood is the player pool just isn't big enough anymore because of XYZ reasons that we can likely get into offline. So what do we have to do instead of running a 3-team league? Well, we ask the clubs, what do you want to do? Do these go up into the U17? And then sometimes there's not enough U19s that they come back down into the U17s. Or do you want that group to go down an age group and maybe up a tier? Or where do you want to put them that they're going to find good games? Because there isn't a volume of teams there. So I guess the question is in your opinion, I would flip it maybe back. Is it better to not run that league at all and say to those players, sorry, we have no league for you, you can't play, or to try and work to find solutions? I mean, for us and our clubs, we're trying to find solutions with that and trying to really keep players in the game and keep them playing. Is it the absolute best option? Well, no. But unfortunately, we don't exist in a utopian world where we have 8, 10, 15 teams in each league that we can not have these kinds of problems. So for now, these are some of the solutions that we have, and hopefully in the future, we can continue to work at younger age groups to keep players involved longer, or to work in these age groups that we're talking about tonight to really identify what these players want and to keep them involved in the game. I see some fingers furiously typing, so I'm assuming there'll be another question. I'm going to start going with this, what the league structure is going to look like, and I'm sure there'll be some more questions as well. League structure will look like this. So it'll be 14 randomized games, a set number of games that are played in the 11v11 format. You'll have citywide play across all the divisions, and then there's a Challenge Cup at the end of the season. So a Challenge Cup is essentially a playoff format at the end for the top 4 teams in those leagues. In order to qualify for Alberta Soccer's provincial championships, we're going to be sending the league winner and the Challenge Cup winner. So that's for tiers 1 to 3. Tiers 4 will have the league winner and the league runner-up, because the Challenge Cup is actually scheduled after their provincials, unfortunately. Their provincials are so early in July that we can't fit that in. So if the league winner and the Challenge Cup winner in tiers 1 to 3 are the same team, the second place team in the Challenge Cup will qualify for the ASA provincials. U14 and U16 are not leading to ASA provincials, and there's no opportunity for those teams in those leagues to challenge. Age-eligible teams who might be playing up an age group can challenge the Challenge Cup champion, or in that case where it's the same team that wins both, the Challenge Cup runner-up. And if there's multiple age-eligible teams playing up, it's the highest ranked team out of all of those in their head-to-head matches up in that league. I'm going to go back to the chat because I'm sure that there's some questions. Having U17 and 19 together as now laid out for 2024, how is that going to impact for U17 provincials in your new playoff structure? Just kind of explain that. It's going to be a U17 kind of table and a U19 table as well. The answer doesn't track, as 19-year-olds can play adult soccer, as you mentioned in the beginning of the presentation. For sure they can. For sure they can. I will check and see if there are actual 19-year-olds playing in any of our leagues. If there are, we will look to address that. And if there are, we will look to encourage them to play in a men's and women's league at this point. So I would also ask for the other side that if it's important for us to be inclusive, and maybe this is that player's final year, if we're talking about one player and saying you need to leave, I don't know. I think we can maybe find some solutions and be accepting of maybe one player playing in a league or however many that is. But I will take this offline and I'll take that away and look into it. I appreciate that. There's always a question around where do fees go and the costs associated with things. And so our fees that we charge the clubs per player on a registration fee are on your screen, between $195 and $210 for a U14, and you can see the rest of them there. Out of that, ASA takes a fee of $12.60 per player. And so that means that CMSA is left with between $182 and about $212, depending on the age, tier, etc. So that works out to a price per match day of between $13.03 and maybe as high as $15.17 per match day there. And where do they actually get spent? Well, the majority of the fees go towards booking fields for games, paying the referees, and other league-related expenses. There's a small part that goes into a facility fund to contribute towards future facility projects and upgrades. So if Calgary West needs another renovation, maybe another Shoal Ice bubble, those kinds of projects, then we have a bit of a fund that we can look to activate when those opportunities come into play. And also there's a donation to Kids Sport. So a portion of our fees go, or all of those fees, pardon me, go towards Kids Sports Player Assistance Program to keep sport accessible at all. Kids Sport kick back about $500,000 into Calgary families for them to play soccer. Soccer is the highest enrollment activity for Kids Sport in the actual city here. As I've mentioned, some of those go to Alberta Soccer and Canada Soccer. They go for those registration fees, and a small portion of every player registration fee goes towards referee development initiatives. So locally here, we're trying to produce better referees as well. So we need some funding in order to be able to do that. And then a small portion helps to pay for all the CMSA staff to ensure, or that we try to, ensure that Calgary Soccer is run efficiently and it continues to innovate and progress and meet, or try to meet, the players' needs. If and when you maybe have an injury happen, you need to make sure that you fill out the form that's on Alberta Soccer's website. It has to be filled out within the first 30 days of that injury. And what's going to happen is you'll use any personal insurance that you may have first, and then the Alberta Soccer insurance kicks in after that personal money or that personal insurance funding runs out. We know that physio and rehab expenses can add up quickly and exhaust that personal insurance rapidly. So make sure that if or when an injury happens, that you are activating and filling out that form that's on Alberta Soccer's website. And so after tonight, we really only have one sleep before the outdoor season. So really, it's about it starts now, and it's about starting a community. It's about continuing culture building, and it's really about supporting our players, coaches, referees, administrators, parents, and everyone else. So it starts now. And I'll leave you with this video to hopefully get things going for the outdoor season.
All right. All right.
And so it's a bit of a short one all the time with the U14s to 19s, but I want to say thank you for joining tonight. You likely have missed your favorite TV program tonight or some time with your family. And I want to say thank you and acknowledge your sacrifices to be here and be curious and to be invested in the game. So I really appreciate you turning up tonight. I really appreciate the questions. And I will leave you with this image. I'll get back into some of the questions if there are any more. But I'll leave you with that image that if we continue to pull in a similar direction on the right-hand side of that black image, we're going to make significant progress quickly. But if we continue to pull in opposite directions in any direction without any sort of common vision, we're going to struggle to make progress. So if you have further feedback, if you have further questions, if you need further support, our email is on your screen at info@calgaryminersoccer.com, or you can call the office as well at 403-279-8686. Just getting back in for a couple of questions. Girls U17 Tier 2 has an NCFC team listed as 05s. Yes, we know. We dealt with that at the Club Connect, and we continue to deal with that. That is an agreement with the clubs. The clubs all said, yeah, that's the right spot for that team. So whether they're 19 or whether they're 15, that apparently is that level for that group. So that's where they've been placed, and that's where they are competing. I'm not sure what the entire roster makeup is of that. So again, like I said, I will take it offline and I will look into it, and we will try to continue to find solutions on that. Please check the Tier 1 U17-19 composition of teams. Thanks very much. Appreciate the suggestion. If the winner of a certain tier is an older age group, I assume they don't go to provincials, correct? That is a good assumption and a great question as well. That's exactly what it is. Thanks for addressing concerns. Sent you an email with a fixed problem. Excellent. Love it. Thanks for the solution. 19-year-olds are ineligible to compete in Alberta high school athletic events for developmental and safety reasons. Excellent. I appreciate that, Tim. Thank you for that info. I'll do some more research in there with the high schools, because we're developing a great relationship there with the junior officiating program, and how things operate there. So I appreciate that. Thanks very much. If there are any further questions, I'll stick around for a couple of minutes if fingers are feverishly typing anything else. And if not, feel free to sign off. And I look forward to seeing you on the pitch for the outdoor 2024 season.